right. I've not played Criss Cross.
Criss Cross.
Where did it go?
Yeah, this is such a, oh my goodness. I'm honestly shocked this game was published because it feels like it should be part of a larger collaboration or like larger assembly of games. But it was published by Grail Games a while back as a little tiny box, a little roll and write. I think it's I'm trying to find it. I scrolled away. It's D tier. It's decent. It's got actually a pretty good solo mode. It's fun to play through. But there's two different there's like easy rules and hard rules, and it's not really something I'd want to play with other players. I think it's best solo probably. It's a little puzzle, but honestly, you roll 2 dice and you have to place them together on your sheet like a domino, and then you're trying to get a row either in the column or the row, a line of symbols of the same shape to score more points. But there are other games that we're going to be talking about here that do that same kind of puzzle much better and with more variety and interesting ways. It's D tier.
All right. And getting into D's, we have Doset Pares. I probably didn't pronounce that correctly. For me, this is very solidly C tier because it's about auctioning off 16 lots. It's not a lot. But the way that the auctions work is every player selects a secret amount of money that they bid, and then they all reveal them at once. And whoever committed the most money actually pays the bid of the second most bid that was put out on the table. But I think there's a number of things that are holding this back from me wanting to play it. One, I can't play it because it was only ever published in Germany in the mid-90s in an absolutely enormous box that is impossible to get a cheap copy of in the States. It's really frustrating. But then it feels like there are some really rough edges in the game that can kind of tear you open if you're not careful with them, because you can overbid extremely easily and end up not making any money off of your investments, because the lots you pay out for don't necessarily pay out, and it's very difficult to evaluate. And if you end up not making back the money that you started with, which is very easy, it just makes you feel really stupid. But like, there's so much potential there, I think. And I'd love to see Reiner revisit it in a very small box, because it can be a very fast auction game that is really unique.
Yeah, I haven't played this, but I get the take that it's an interesting, unique game with a lot of rough edges in a lot of ways, that maybe could be sanded down or refined. So cool, I can live with C tier.
Okay, what about Decathlon?
I have not played Decathlon. You have, right?
D tier.
No, okay, there it is.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Decent.
It's fine.
I'm going to get a bunch of dice and make my friends play it for the Olympics this coming year.
Nice.
And I think we'll have a fun time. But it's just kind of like a bunch of little pushy luck mini games, and it's fine.
Cool. And this is notably one that if you go to Reiner Knizia's website, I think you can download the rules for, and so it's like free. He's offered it free to everybody, and a lot of people seem to appreciate it. So it's not a bad game from what I hear.
All right, these next two are Murray exclusives.
Oh, yeah. Buckle up, Dice Monsters. This is an app. Okay. Is this the one that you can? Is iOS exclusive, or is it the other?
They're both iOS exclusive. So
okay, yeah. So there's not very many Knizia apps out there, and this one is C tier. So it's actually this is probably between this one and the other one that's just a Knizia app. I think I like Dice Monsters more, and it's one that I've spent like a few hours on the day that I downloaded it. So it did hook me in for a good while. I'm not much of an app game guy though, because I feel like they're all designed to just hook you in and get you to try to like be addicted to the game basically, and then try to spend money on it. Like I don't like there's kind of like that. I don't know. It's undertones of app designs are often like, ooh, this is kind of predatory in a lot of ways. And so that often rubs me the wrong way. But this one's cool because you roll 2 dice, which you don't get the satisfaction of rolling them. So maybe it would be a B tier if it was in person, but it wouldn't work in person because there's a lot of mechanics behind the scenes going on. But you roll 2 dice and you assign them against a monster, and these different monsters you're going up against usually 3 at once, and these different monsters have different requirements to beat them. And so deciding where to assign your dice at the right time, and sometimes they get stronger over time if you ignore these monsters. It's cool. It kind of changes over time. It's fine. It's C tier. Next one. Oh, sorry. Were you going to say anything? Dragonland. Yeah, this is very much a D tier, Knizia. This one is intended as a family weight game, which we did play with our daughter, our older daughter, and my wife and I. And I'm going to say, let's put it this way. My daughter, and this is all my fault, she's become obsessed with gaming in all forms, like card games, board games, and video games. You know, we play a lot of these types of games together. And all of us, including her, were kind of done with the game like halfway through it. It does have some clever elements of like roll the dice, and then it's roll and move, but you have more strategy there than most roll and move games give you. You assign the dice to 2 of your 3 figures, and you're trying to stop at volcanoes and pick up the dragon eggs and the gems. But oftentimes you'll assign a die to one of your figures and you won't move them at all because you want to stay there and pick up another of the tokens there that you haven't picked up yet, because you're limited each turn how much you can pick up. And for us, it was just kind of sluggish and long. And there are other family weight Knizia games that use roll and move in more and more interesting ways. So it's D tier.
Solid. Have you played On Guard?
I have. I own the deluxe. Well, I did own the deluxe edition. But have you played it?
I have. I actually played Duel, and then with the On Guard rules, because I think those are slightly better.
Okay.
Because you can riposte and like beat back attacks. I think for me, this was an enjoyable C tier 2-player Knizia game. The deck is very, very slim, and it's very much it's very much a game of counting cards and being like, ooh, I'm at range 4. He's played a range 4. So if I attack with 2, the chances of him being able to repel that attack with 2 other 4s is very low. Oh gosh, he did it. Oh, I'm in a terrible position.
That's a good description.
Yeah. But my roommate and I played it. He's very into fencing, but he doesn't like card counting, so it didn't last super long. But I think it's solid. It's a game that if it had a small footprint, I'd throw it in my 2-player shelf and pull it out every once in a while if I felt like it. So
I acquired the deluxe edition for this, which is way overproduced. It's like you set up this whole stage of cardboard for them to move up the stairs and then approach each other on this platform, and they're made of metal figures, and there's a background behind them, and it's very pretty, but it's also the most annoying game I've ever had to deal with setting up. It doesn't work, and maybe that's just my edition, but like the stairs were like bent and like hard to stand them on, and things were ripping as I was trying to assemble it, and I'm like, this is terrible. Like this should be a game that you should set up in like 2 seconds and get into, because to me that's how much satisfaction there is to the game. Like you say, if you're not into card counting, which I'm not super into card counting, then it's like that's really the heart of the game. But I was impressed with how kind of thematic it is, you know, the pairing and the approaching and the feints and stuff like that. So I think it's cool, but the version that I got is super annoying. I would not recommend it. I recommend you get the cheapest, smallest version you can if you're interested in this and card counting dueling game. So
okay.
And I ranked it as D tier, but I could live with C tier. So
yeah.
All right.
Euphrates, Tigris, Contest of Kings. You
haven't played
this,
it,
right? Okay. For me, this is high D tier. It's almost almost solid, but there's just a little bit of it that just felt like it didn't work. It's a distillation of Tigris and Euphrates into a card game. Very small cards, but without feeling like I'm a giant in the land of men. But you're building these city-states by making columns of cards that then connect at one point on either side. And you have a hand of 8 cards. And when you play a card where you have a leader, you score a point of that color. But the way that you score points is by taking a card of that color from your hand and putting it into your score pile, which I think is very interesting. The only way that you score points is by having a card in your hand to discard, which I think is really interesting. I'd be willing to give this another shot, but the first play of it was like, oh, that was very interesting.
Does this feel in any way like Tigris and Euphrates, or like what's the connection there?
It does. Like you build up the city states, and then if they get connected when they have conflicting leaders, you have a war where cards get taken off and you score them in different colors. You can build, I think, like boats, trade routes that give you trickles of different colors of points. The different colors give you certain things, but it just didn't feel like everything came together in a really satisfying way. But it's something that I would have liked to. It'd be cool to hold on to and be like, hey, you want to try this out? Could we just play Tigris and Euphrates instead? Yes, we could.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Tigris and Euphrates, and if I had heard even one good thing about this, I probably would have snatched it up long ago. But yeah, I haven't heard anything good about this game.
It's
so
fine.
D tier, it's fine. It's fine. All right.
Family Inc.
Oh, Family Inc. This is very much like Cheeky Monkey. Okay. Pretty much 90 to 95% the same rules. Okay. There are some subtle twists there, but this is very much a D tier Knizia game. And the big reason is because that box, oh my goodness, it is like 10% tiles and 90% air. And it's way too big for the game you're getting out of it. Again, it's a very simple, casual, family-friendly push your luck game, just like Cheeky Monkey. But oh my goodness, publisher Piatnik, it's cool. I think they manufacture their games in their country in Europe, which is cool. But they seem to have this habit of making their boxes way too big. And this is like, I don't see any reason why I would choose Family Inc. over its 2 similar siblings. So it's D tier. It's fine. If that's your only option, yeah, it's cool. But if that's not your only option, just don't even go for it.
Fair enough. Now we're coming to Fits. This is just me,
Fits.
Right? Fits.
I have not played.
Fits for me is a D. It's all right. It's basically multiplayer Tetris. You flip a card, and that tells you what polyomino piece you're going to slide down the top of your 5-column high playing area. And you're trying to make everything fit together nicely. But there are other boards that it's like, oh, there's some spaces you need to cover up so you don't lose points for them. There's some spaces where you don't want to cover them up so you can get points for them. Someone did a bunch of fan-made expansion boards for it that do all sorts of weird and crazy things with you're trying to spell words with the spaces you don't cover up, which is just I don't know why you Fits this much to put this much effort into it. What I will say for it is that I played it with my nephew. We had a good time. The pieces though, the polyomino pieces, are almost backlight. I don't think they are quite, but they're this really, really satisfying plastic, and they just have such a nice weight to them. I love the
weighty. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've heard this one would be better with more boards. I think that's what Tom Vassell has said about it. He wishes it had more boards, more variety, that kind of thing. But it sounds to me like Reiner did this concept much better in a more recent game that we'll get to in a moment. So, all right, Foodie Forest. This is one you have not played, right?
That's just you.
Okay, so this is being newly released by publisher Yellow this year. So this is one that should be very, very easy to acquire. If I think it might not have released yet in the US, but very soon. I ordered it overseas just so I could play it before this video. So there you go. This is a C tier Knizia game for me. Very good, very fun trick taker from Dr. Knizia. It's been around for a while. The old version was just making soup, and you're throwing in random ingredients. And the catch is you have to follow suit when somebody leads a trick, but the moment somebody can't follow suit, they can choose to play a pepper. And if somebody plays a pepper, then that derails the entire trick, which means everybody else can play whatever suit they want after that. You don't have to follow suit anymore, which is cool. And the new version is based on anthropomorphic animals, all the hotness, all the rage. And but I think it's still a pretty good theme, because you are still making soup, but it's like the moment somebody throws trash into the soup, which you might do if you're like a raccoon or something, right? That's what derails the rest of the suit. The other thing that's really cool about this trick taker is every player is simultaneously and secretly selecting a scoring objective, and you all have 5 different scoring objectives to start the game, and then every round you are revealing that, and it might be the same as somebody else, but hopefully it's different, because then you're not competing with others as much. And certain suits are like negative points unless you choose that suit to be your scoring objective, and then it's positive, and then you want all those negative point cards. And honestly, this is one that I wish you had played, because you could talk me into this being a B tier game, and I'd be like, okay. That sounds. I think it's at least very, very high C. I think it's, if you like trick taking games, then this is absolutely worth seeking out, because it's brand new, newly published. I don't know if it's as good as, or as strong, or as lasting as other Reiner Knizia card games, but I'm almost talking myself into putting it B tier. But we'll leave it there for now. I think I definitely recommend it. It's a good game.
Okay. All right. So next we have the 4-1 games. We'll do a lightning round for these.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Let's blow your mind here. Why don't you plop all of those onto the same tier, A tier?
Ooh.
Okay. A tier. Yeah. So, Reiner Knizia, he's done some games that have solo modes, right? And I think I don't know if he's done some solo exclusive games in the past, but this is him getting real serious. He means business when he's making these solo games, this 4-1 series. Okay, this is like him going all in with his design intent and his effort and what he's put into these games. All right, so oh man, these are all excellent. They're so fun to play. I picked these up very recently, and in the span of 4 days, I accumulated 38 plays of these games. Okay. They're that good.
That's
I'm not even really a solo gamer. Okay. So each of these games has 20 levels that you progress through, but the rulebook encourages you to get the gold rank score before you move on to the next level, which is not always easy to do. And for the most part, these are basically all push your luck games. Galactics, you're cruising up these tracks trying to get your rockets higher, and you roll the dice one time and you can choose one symbol that you get to use, but you can also re-roll one time, and that can either, but you have to re-roll everything, and that can either be really, oh no, you don't have to re-roll everything, you can re-roll some of them, and that might burn you sometimes. Let's see, Niffle, that's the next one, right? Yeah, the blue one there. That's like Yahtzee on steroids, where you have 17 dice to start out with, but that actually changes with each level. But you roll 5 dice each turn, and you have this huge board in front of you of like different Yahtzee style objectives, like full house, a run of 3, a run of 4, a set of the same 5 of a kind, 4 of a kind, stuff like that, right? And with these 5 dice, you decide where to assign all 5 dice in these different categories. And you don't get those dice back until you start scoring those categories. And so very quickly you start running out of dice, and you have to decide, like, shoot, I really want to build this run to be longer, or to get more points out of this, but I'm out of dice. And so sometimes you have to decide, like, I'm going to score 0 points on this objective, even though I was so close, because if I don't have enough dice to roll on my next turn, I lose the game's over. All right. So good. It's like, I grew up playing a lot of Yahtzee, and this one is like, oh my gosh, this is the best, very Yahtzee inspired game I've ever seen. So very cool. Number up is probably the most simple of the bunch. You just flip a card and you add it to a growing grid of cards. But the way he plays with those rules is really fun. Like, you try to build a high score of all of the same number, and then suddenly the colors don't matter anymore in the next levels, and then it's just the numbers. It's hard to explain, but it's very cool the way he iterates on the rules over time. And then Rosen is like a domino game where you're connecting roses together on this board, and you're trying to build a run of 3 to score points, 3 of a kind. But again, he starts playing with the rules, and then, like, you kind of get into a groove with a couple levels and you're like, I'm getting pretty good at this. And then he changes one little rule and you play it the same way that you've always been playing it. And you're like, oh my gosh, I suck at this level. And you realize like, I have to change the way I approach this entire puzzle. So anyway, this is a brand new release from Schmidt-Spiel. And it's only available in Germany in the language of German. So it's a major pain to buy this from overseas for way more than you should, and then translate the rules through Google Translate. It was a pain. So I'm not saying you should go get it right now, but I'm really hoping this spreads overseas to other languages, because I think it's the best, hands down, the best solitaire solo games that Reiner has ever made. And I fully intend to play through all games, all 20 levels. I can't wait.
Ooh,
so
that's beautiful. For me, like Rosen is the one that is most appealing, just because I'm a big domino guy, and I love the idea of a solo like tile placement, like tile layer, which is like
and they're also clean too. I should say, like solo games, I usually avoid because there's such a pain. Like you're bookkeeping stuff and you're managing stuff, and these ones you're just like. Yeah. And like they take way too much energy out of you. These ones are like bite-sized 5-10 minute challenges that like I played Galactics like 18 times in a row. Mostly because level 3, I was just banging my head against. I'm like, I am so close to winning this. I know I can do it. And they only last like 5-10 minutes. And oh my gosh, it's just so easy to get into and just get sucked into immediately. Man. My goodness. I hope he does more games in this line. It's so good.
Okay. All right. Next up is another game. I think this is the last one of just Nick for a while. Okay. So I'm getting tired of hearing his voice.
Yeah.
Forbidden City is.
All right. I put it at C tier. Okay. This is an interesting one because it's a lot like Carcassonne, but if you approach it in the same way you play Carcassonne, then you'll be like, this is kind of lame. And that's how I came into it initially. And I think that's why it hasn't done very well in the market, is because in a lot of ways it's very Carcassonne inspired. You kind of you draw a tile and you decide where to put it, and you're kind of competing with other players in the shared area. But the thing that's cool about this is like you're building out these rooms, and you can connect doorways. You know, walls will block off other people. You know, you can put other tiles by walls, but they just won't have any connection between the two rooms. But if there's a doorway between both rooms, then you can score on somebody else's room that they've been working on and kind of just bum ride off of their points like a leech. And once you kind of approach it with that unique, different mindset from Carcassonne, it actually becomes a pretty good tile placement game, especially at 2 players. So I've enjoyed it. It started out and I was like, this game is lame. But then I played it again with a different mindset and I was like, okay, this game's pretty cool. So it's not amazing, but it's good.
Solid. Okay. Mm-hmm. Next up, we have a game that both of us have played. Now, I'm going to start off by saying nobody loves cats more than me. Love cats. I've got 2 cats. You saw one of my cats in my lap earlier. Galaxy Cat extension, or Galaxy Cat Bridge, for those who are like, translation actually isn't that good on BGG. It's a very...
But extension's the better name, right? I mean, come on.
It absolutely is a better name, so I'm sorry. Like, anyways...
this is like a meme status game on the Knizia Enthusiast Discord.
Game. And I think that it doesn't save it from being a boring game.
Oh no, F tier, come on.
This is why I wanted it to be E tier, just a slightly less.
Okay, yeah.
Punch. I don't think it's worth paying $40 for it to import at all. Not even close. So I did buy 2 copies.
Oh man, not that either of us have done that.
I bought 2 copies. I bought into the meme. I played it a few times. I thought it was kind of like, oh, this is dumb, but like a lot of Knizia card games, it's dumb, but then it's got hidden depths. I don't think so. I think the most strategic thing you can do is be like, I'm going to give this good card to my neighbor, because there are cards that make me get my neighbor's cards and pass them instead, but it might not happen. And like, that's the extent of it. And I don't think that really saves it. I think it's, I love absolutely everything about it except for the actual game.
The actual game. I agree to you to some extent, but I think it's a more enjoyable experience than you give it credit for. I've tried it a few times, and For me, it's just kind of like a dumb but kind of dumb fun game for me. I actually ranked it C tier. So maybe D tier is the place for it to go. D for dumb fun.
And me, just D for dumb. It's fine.
I think there's enough going on there. Like, there's slightly stronger cards that everybody wants, but those have UFO icons on them. And if you have the most UFO icons in front of you at the end, then your cards get abducted to the discard pile. Oh no! and then there's like trying to just stop people from forming pairs of the head and tail cats. I think the theme brings it up a little bit. Like, you open that box and you're like, okay, this is a silly game.
Like,
and
the cats are literally extending as you open the box on the side. Amazing.
I think it does a really good job getting you into the mood and setting expectations. Yeah, it's a dumb game, but for me, it's one that, like, if you have the chance to try it, I think you should, because when we played it, like, we were laughing, we were having a good time. It's not, there's nothing brilliant or clever about it. It's very lucky in a lot of ways, but so yeah, I would definitely play it again. I'll break it out again as the occasional filler, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I just think the joke wears out eventually, and the meme loses its luster.
No, the meme will live on forever in our hearts, but maybe not the game on our tables. So,
right. But let's talk about a game that both of us are big fans of.
Oh my gosh, this one is kind of like I mentioned Babylonia earlier, growing on me, right? This is the same scenario with Gang of Dice. First time I played it, I was like, this is pretty good, and then I kept playing it, and I think part of it is, with more plays, I got into the mood and I knew how to set the mood for the table. And so this has become an A tier Knizia game for me. I think it is one of his strongest and best dice games, one of his strongest and best push your luck games. And it's because it's a bit like Yahtzee, but it's brings everybody's egos into the game, because you're deciding how many dice am I going to invest in this challenge, and chuck, and you can choose any range of dice that you want. There's lots of dice in this game, and if you lose the challenge, then all the dice that you rolled that turn that you invested are lost to the winner. And there are chances to bust immediately, and then there are some cards where you bust after 3 rolls potentially if you end up with the bad results. But basically, you're just trying to get the highest total sum, the highest total roll, thread that needle of being as high as possible with as many dice as possible without busting. And to me, the atmosphere that it brings to the table has always been supremely satisfying. I've had some of the most exciting and fun experiences of any dice game ever playing Gang of Dice. It's A tier for me.
I absolutely agree. I think if you get the right people, it can be like really great at 3. I think it works the best at the max player count with 4, where you have the bigger space for egos, for pushing your luck, and with people who are willing to push their luck. Because a lot of sometimes people are like, oh, why would I roll more than 4 dice ever? And it's like, because it's fun, and also because I've seen a guy roll 11 dice on an immediate explosion, like one of those rounds where he could lose immediately. He was the last person. He rolled 11 dice and he nailed it, and it was incredible.
Oh my gosh.
So Gang of Dice,
that's so cool,
super fun, super exciting, super hard to find.
Yeah, I could talk about it forever, but we probably shouldn't. But yeah, it's top tier Knizia dice game. So
all right,
Genesis. Have you played Genesis?
I have, and I think it's a very solid C tier.
How many times have you played it?
Just once.
Okay, so my first play, I would say the same thing. My second play, it's B tier, and I'm gonna fight you tooth and nail. Unless you did it.
I accept it.
All right.
Because past the warring exterior, there is something at the core of this game that is very, very interesting. What I like about it, and remember, it's my turn to go first now. You want first?
Yes. No, you take it. No. Yeah, I'm just excited to talk about this because it's so ugly, but it's so good.
You roll 2 dice, and then you take 2 of your markers of the terrain types matching those dice, and you put them anywhere on the board. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to make big areas with big herds of your creature in the colored areas to score points. But what I really love about it is that instead of taking what the dice is, you can always ignore the dice and just place 1 tile of whatever color you want, wherever you want, which I think I really like games that say, hey, like, do your best with what you're given randomly or assigned by the game. Do your best with what you're given. But I guess if you're a coward, you could go like the wild route and just like, do less, but do what you want to do. But I really like that central mechanism of like what the dice invite you to do and choosing to like deal with what you're given rather than taking the easy way out. I like that a lot.
The rule set to this game, I think, takes some time to really wrap your head around how to play it well. It's very simple, but you're fighting for majority in each of these large groups, but there's also shared incentives because if you're first or second place, you'll score points for it. So you can kind of help contribute to make it big enough to score together. And then if it's the biggest of that area type on the whole board, you'll score extra points on top of that. And so, oh man, the ways that you can like enclose, like if somebody's spreading out and getting this huge area and you're like, shoot, I don't want them to spread out more because they're either their area is getting bigger than my area of the same type, or they're out competing me for a majority of their herd is getting larger than mine in the same area. There's ways you can block them and cut them off. And oh my goodness. But that first play, I was like, okay, it's pretty good. It's all right. It's a good Knizia tile placement game. The second time I played with 3 other folks who love tile placement, love Knizia games, and it was just a bloodbath. It was so good. Oh my goodness. So yeah, the game is ugly and it's very abstract. I think from a publisher standpoint, this is a hard sell. This is one that like I would be very reluctant to reprint because I think it's hard to sell. But from a player standpoint, I think it's a blast. So if you can kind of wrap your head around it, get a group who really understands the subtle strategies to it, oh my goodness, it's a great one.
Beautiful.
All right.
Great Wall of China.
Great Wall of China. I think I'm going to need your help with this one because I've only played it once and I don't remember very much about it, but it was a C tier Knizia for me at the time. There's some interesting stuff going on in the card play, but I can see what it looks like in my mind, but I can't recall, what's the experience of playing it. So take it away.
There's a little bit of samurai in there. You have different rows that you're competing for. You each have a bespoke deck of cards with the same types of cards. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get majority for an entire round so that when it comes around to you again, you still have majority and you get to take scoring tokens off of the different rows that you're playing cards into. And as the game goes on, you're taking actions to draw cards. You don't ever get to draw cards for free. You're taking actions to draw cards, to play cards, and you're just trying to like hold on to scoring opportunities. But whenever you get a majority somewhere, you have to hold on to it like for the whole round. It has to come back to you again. And everyone else has to say, I'm not going to stop you there. I'm not going to stop you there. I'm not going to stop you there until it finally comes back to you. And you're like, okay, thank you. I'll take this scoring token. Which I think is great. And then when both scoring tokens of a given row are taken, all the cards there are wiped off and 2 new ones are placed there. So it has a really interesting rhythm of building up strength, getting something, and then that strength being wiped away and having to start from scratch or ignore that row. I think at its core, it's a very good card game. I think Great Wall of China is not the final form of it, though. Pan Tu Ni Bao.
Ooh, okay.
I think the only functional difference is it adds 1 card to each player's deck that allows them to like hold a place in line and swap it with one of their other cards at a later point, which I think is
interesting.
I think it's great. But where it deviates is in the theme. This is like mid Soviet Poland, and you're sending out people from your clan to stand in line to buy knockoff Soviet goods that are like very like low quantity, low quality. It's dreary. It's dark. It feels like cold. It feels miserable. but that really elevates it and really, really feels like an incredible marriage between theme and mechanics, because the game itself is miserable. Like every time you want something, you have to tell everyone by playing a card there, be like, I want the chocolate imitation product, and I'm playing 2 cards and telling everyone, and I just praying that no one else realizes and comes and tries to take it, and we just get stuck in a war of attrition. I think this is really, really good at 3 players. At 4 players, it's good. At 5 players, it's good. But at 3 players, I think it's one of Reiner Knizia's best card games for that.
Oh, man. You're really tempting me to look into this version because, I mean, I remember it being, there's like some really interesting, engaging tactical nuance to Great Wall of China. I felt like it, like you said, and I was looking at my old comment. Yeah, it's similar to Samurai and Condottiere, but probably not as strong as either of those. No. At least my experience playing Great Wall of China once, and maybe a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. But yeah, I mean, you could easily. You're talking me into this other version that sounds very cool.
The theme of it is just so perfect, and like it's a very strong case for like branching out into international games shopping, because like, it really elevates the design in a way that is incredibly impressive.
Sounds similar to what happened with me in Botswana, the Japanese edition. So
yep.
All right. Next one. I don't think you've played this, right?
The next 3 I haven't played.
Ooh.
So.
Oh. Do you even like Knizia games? You only played 100? What's the matter with you?
6. I know, it's pathetic.
All right. Heckmeck Karteneck. This is a spin-off or sibling design to the very, very popular Pickamino or Heckmeck.
I mean, let's go ahead and start with Heckmeck Deluxe then.
Okay, let's start with that. Yeah, let's do that. Heckmeck Deluxe is a push your luck dice rolling game. Very good seller over the years. One that I think surprised Reiner with how well it did. But but I think there's a good reason for it. I put it as a B tier. It doesn't quite reach the heights of Gang of Dice and the drama and the egos and the noise and the fun of just throwing in a bunch of dice, but I think it's very, very sound dice game where you roll a bunch of dice, you pick one value and you lock that value in, and now you can't choose that value for the rest of your rolls. And so you roll again, and if you roll a bunch of those again, then you just hate your life because you're like, oh my gosh, why did I lock in that number earlier? And then whatever sum you end up with is the domino you take from the center. But there are ways to, if you roll the exact amount, you can steal the top domino from another player. And then Heckmeck Deluxe introduces some fun added layers of strategy and kind of some mini expansions, basically, where there's special tokens that break the rules that you can use and stuff like that. So I think it's fun. It's one I guess Achilles heel, you could say, is the fact that it can drag on too long when you're just stealing back and forth, that kind of thing. Or but it does have kind of a timer. If you fail a roll, then you just flip face down the first domino in the line. So there is a timer to it, but it still can drag on too long. But I think it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it. It's a good, solid Knizia dice game.
Okay, Heckmeck Karteneck.
Yeah, this one. Okay, so if Heckmeck Deluxe is like low B tier, then Heckmeck Karteneck is high B tier. Okay, this one surprised me. It takes, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. I think it's the auction system of Taj Mahal and Beowulf, where you are kind of stuck playing the same thing that you start out playing, the same color. But then you can keep committing more and more cards as the auctions go around. And then eventually you'll pass out of the round, and whoever bids highest gets first dibs on the row of tiles in the middle, and then second highest gets second dibs. But then if your total sum, your total bid is the exact amount of another player's top tile, then you can steal their tile from them. And there's so many little satisfying nuances to this game. It's a great card game, a great auctioning game, and I wish it was more widely available because it's honestly one of among Reiner's better card games for sure.
Okay. The next one is quite highly available though, and that's High Score.
Indeed. High Score. This is, to me, a slightly friendlier, slightly less punishing, and slightly less spicy, and slightly less exciting version of Gang of Dice, which is why I put it at C tier.
Okay.
Yeah. And no, I think it's a really good game. It's a very solid, good game. I'd be happily play it anytime. You're in like a game of dice. You take turns rolling the dice one time, and then this one is probably a hybrid between Gang of Dice and Decathlon, actually, because there's different challenges you progress through one at a time. And yeah, it's cool. He kind of plays with the different rules. Sometimes you get to roll the dice multiple times. Sometimes I don't know, you only get to roll a couple times, or you can keep rolling and rolling, and you roll and lock in, you roll and lock in like Heckmeck. So he plays with a lot of different rules that he's used in other games. And then each round you get first, second, and third place points for how well you do. And it's cool. It's a good dice game, a good push your luck game. It just didn't thrill me as much as maybe some of his other stuff. So
okay. All right. Ooh, coming to High Society.
Oh yeah.
High Society is a
Are we feeling high on High Society?
razor sharp auction game.
Oh,
This is one that I've also watched more than I've played. I took it with me. It's one of the other 3 games that I took with me to Guatemala. It is like, it's fast, it's mean, it's cruel, it's hilarious. There's room for upheavals, for comebacks, for overextensions. I think it's just like, oh, it's so good. One of my favorite things about it is you don't know when the game's going to end. The game ends before the 4th teal backed card comes out. It isn't auctioned off. It just ends the game immediately. And so if you auction, a 2 comes out first and nobody wants it, but then 3 of the teal cards come out and the 3 comes out, people are like 20,000, 25,000. Yeah. It's just like,
it's crazy.
So,
oh man,
like for me, it's like, it's very, very, very good, and I'm very much torn between like S or gold, but every time I play it just rises in my estimations, and like I don't think it has an upper cap for how much I admire the design.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I think it started out as a B tier style game, but it was one of the first Knizia games I played. And at that point I was like, I think I like QE more. I like For Sale more, these other auction filler games. But as the years have gone on and I've played all of these games a little bit more, High Society keeps, leapfrogging all those games in my estimation. I'm like, oh my gosh, this game just has legs, and it gets better with more plays. And I recently played it at 3 players, and it was so good. We played it twice in a row, and we were like, should we play it again? But it was getting late, and so we didn't. But yeah, I love that when you're committing your bids, you're deciding which value card to give up forever, potentially. And you'll often regret those decisions when you give up. You throw in 1 extra and you're like, I'm only bidding 1 more or 2 more to have be the highest bidder. And then later on, you're like, shoot, the only way I can raise this bid is by bidding 15. And then it's brutal. And then the fact that the highest spender gets eliminated at the end. Oh my goodness. Such a good game. I had it. So it started out B tier, like I said, and then I played it again recently and I was like, oh, this is at least A tier. So I think, do we go S tier on this? I mean, we can't start filling that gold tier yet. That's just for decoration, I think.
Oh man, High Society, Shantan, and Babylonia, they're all like, they want it. They want the gold.
They're so close. Yeah, they're so. Oh my goodness, we'll see. I mean, I have some other gold tier stuff that we might both agree on, and maybe that's where it lands. But you could maybe talk me into gold tier on High Society. It's so good.
Okay. All right, Hollywood Blockbuster.
Oh, okay. I was like, what is this? Okay, yeah, I own Nightmare Productions, which is the current version of this game, and it's an auction game where you're making movies and you're trying to assemble your director and your actor and your prop. I mean, it depends on what version you have, right? The current version, you're making horror films, and I think it's really nicely done. To me, this is a B tier Knizia auction game, though. I don't know what it is, but I don't get the same thrills out of this auction game as I do from other Knizia auction games. So, but I think it's really great. The theme is fantastic, and it really brings people in, and pretty approachable game in general. So that's me.
No, I think I agree. It's a very interesting auction system, a closed economy where whenever you bid, you divide your bid between all the other players. So bidding power is something that comes and goes, and trying to control that as much as possible is a really interesting puzzle.
Mhm.
I'm going to scroll down a bit, and I'm going to go ahead and grab, where is it? Where's Silver Screen? Silver Screen.
Ooh, we're getting into this. Okay,
I
yep,
think
yep.
Silver Screen is just kind of better, a better Hollywood blockbuster. It's a little shorter, it's a little more flexible in the ways that you make movies, and you have a
Mhm.
bit more of a decision to make with the ways that you use the cards that you win.
Mhm.
It's just incredibly tragic that it kind of doesn't exist. It was never published, but I would absolutely love to see this republished with its current theme, okay, because it makes me want to watch all
Mhm.
these old movies. But it's
Yeah.
also like, I totally understand why Reiner might not want to give the rights to someone else when Nightmare
Yeah.
Productions has been doing well, and it's been really
Mhm.
great to see that new version of it coming out. But like Nightmare Productions, the card game, I'd be on that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So, from my experience with Reiner, I think this is a game that he won't offer to anyone else besides the publisher who has the current rights to Nightmare Productions, because they are kind of cannibalizing in a little bit,
Very much.
in some ways. So actually, I did approach the publisher Trick or Treat Studios, the current publisher, and I was like, "You guys need to publish this because you and I played this together, and I totally agree. I think this game is even stronger and better than Nightmare Productions, and a lot of it is in the card play and the subtle rules tweaks there that give you a little bit more flexibility to the auctions. I think with Nightmare Productions, it's possible for you to just get in a bidding war with somebody, and then eventually they just go so high that you're like, fine, you have it. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of frustrating sometimes. But with this one, there's a little bit more flexibility in the bidding and strategy there, tactics, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with this game. Yeah, I'd say high B tier, definitely better than, for me, better than Nightmare Productions or Hollywood Studios, whatever those are called. But yeah, I really hope we get a actual published version of this game, because the rules are available online. You can download the files and the rules and play it yourself, but it deserves to be published.
It really does.
Cool.
All right.
Next game on the list. I better be the one to introduce this because I've got my hot lead shirt on. I had to wear a Reiner Knizia shirt today. All right. And again, I'm biased. I'm the publisher of this game, so take it all with a grain of salt. You can listen to Scott's. I mean, Scott's biased too. He likes Knizia too much. You shouldn't even be listening. No. Hot lead for me is an A tier Knizia card game. And the reasons are pretty simple. It's lightning fast. The box says 15 minutes, but you can crank out a game in like less than 10, right? And it's pretty light. It's very simple, very easy to teach players, but there's enough teeth and enough spice there from the Push Your Luck set collection, where you're trying to collect these sets. You're trying to collect evidence on criminal organizations. You know, you want cards of the same color, basically. And 3 of a kind is great because that's enough to convict the criminals and get 10 bonus points, which is huge because these cards only on their own, they only grant 0 to 5 points. But then if you get a 4th card of that kind, accidentally you investigate a little too aggressively, then the criminals will smell a rat, they will go dark, and you will lose all the cards of that color. And the reason this game is A tier for me is I have played it dozens of times, and when you include the optional modules, the range of possible experiences you can have with this game is so wide. There's been one game where my wife scored over 100 points and that's the highest score I've ever seen in this game, and it just blew my mind how high scoring she got with all the extra bonus points and stuff. And then there are games where nobody scores above 10 points because you're just busting left and right. And it's hilarious when people end up with, you know, they simultaneously bid on something and hope they thread the needle and get the evidence they want. But sometimes, you know, your opponents play something that pushes your bid relative to them lower than you want. And and it's hilarious. I love this game.
Oh yeah. Hot lead for me is honestly like very high A tier, very possibly S tier. For one very simple reason. It's hilarious, and you can teach it in 2 minutes and play it in 10. And I don't think I've ever had a play of this where we didn't play it again immediately after, at least once. Most of the time I played this like 3 or 4 times in a row, and every one of the games dramatically different in a very satisfying and very, very funny way. Like I love Hot Lead.
And I think you and I agree, this is probably, I mean, depending on who you talk to, you'll get a different answer from like anybody.
Oh, yeah.
But I think you and I are on the same opinion that this is the strongest, or at least our favorite of the Criminal Capers collection.
You wanna just grab the other ones right now?
Let's do it. All right.
Yep. Let's go ahead and grab Elemento P Puma Fiosi.
Puma Fiosi. Go ahead.
For me, I think is very solid B tier. I think it's great at 3 players, and I think it's again one of Reiner Knizia's stronger 3-player card games. The considerations of the strange, it's a trick taking with 1 suit, and it's just a matter of who plays the second highest card. They win the trick and get to place that card somewhere on the hierarchy, and the decisions with that are very interesting. It hasn't quite popped off for me in the same way as the other 2, but I think it's a really solid design.
Yeah, I think it's fun in the sense that it's very unique, and that's what stood out to me. I don't think everybody's going to love this game, but it's so different from other trick takers with the second highest wins and the hierarchy where you can knock other players down with your winning cards and the penalty points that come. Like, it's just I don't know, to me it's just a fun, unique, refreshing experience. But yeah, you're not going to have as much control as you might want, especially if you're, a hobbyist gamer. You only have a hand of 3 cards at a time, and you don't always have what you want to play, right? And then just dealing with that and figuring out what to do. There are some subtle decisions you can make, though, even with that limitation of like, who do I give this win to? Do I play a high card to make this person the winner of the trick because they're second highest? Or do I play a low card to make this person win because they're the second highest because I can't win it, Or like when you really don't want to win with a low value card because you can just get totally owned on the ladder and knocked down a bunch. And it's just fun. I agree. I had it at B tier as well.
All right. And then the third one is Soda Smugglers.
Soda Smugglers. Do you want me to introduce this? Yeah, I can. This is basically like a 20-minute version of Sheriff of Nottingham. Yeah. But much more approachable, much more easy to teach folks. In my mind, I consider this kind of a filler party game. And in that niche, I always have a great time with this. I put it at B tier personally. This is one that if you played at a low player count or you're expecting something really more complex, like I keep forgetting the Sheriff of Nottingham, then yeah, you're not going to like it probably. But if you think of it as a party game, a filler game with a big group, it's always been a hit for me when I've introduced it to large groups, where the bluffing is very clean and streamlined, and the smuggling is just fun, and you always get people laughing and getting big reactions out of the game, and it doesn't take too long. So yeah, I think it's a really good party game.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I think it's like mechanically the least good, interesting. But like fun wise, it's always there. Like it's very reliable. Like 4 players and up, because with 4 players you just get to be like the border guard twice, and then 5 players and up, it just gets crazy in a very delightful way.
Yeah, it's just a clean bluffing game.
It really is.
All right.
It makes me never want to play Sheriff of Nottingham again. I'm like, I get the same thing in 20 minutes instead of an hour and a half.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that, but it depends on your preference, right? Do you want something heavier and longer, or do you want something just clean and quick? So,
and it's also maybe an hour and a half is a little crazy for Sheriff of Nottingham. I haven't played it in a while, but I got some samplers. I don't need it. Ilium is
played it.
It's a very interesting game. I've got it at C tier because it's one of those where someone could convince me that it's actually A tier secretly. But it's also quite ugly, quite old, quite out of print. You could probably find a copy of it fairly easily, but you're trying to build, it's kind of like rolling auctions where you're putting your little people down on paths that connect to 2 separate dig sites, and you're trying to win majority to take artifacts out of there to make sets, kind of Tigris and Euphrates scoring, where you're trying to make sets of 5 different icons, but everyone has a patron that takes the highest, like the tile that you have with the most icons of one given suit and just like deletes it. They just take it as their payment. So trying to figure out like, ooh, they're going for like the helmets. So maybe their patron's the helmet and they're not actually going to be able to do anything with that. It's really interesting. I played it with my mom. We liked it. She beat me. So that's like another, like, it's a great, it's one that I keep wanting to play again and dig into it a little bit more. Pun nicely intended. So
there you have it. Ilium. Next one on the list, Indigo. This for me is it's very clean, family friendly, not very complex, not very deep or strategic in my mind, but a very interesting shared incentives game. I have it at high C tier for me. So you might disagree. I feel like this is a game that you would really love. So it's one where you're kind of just putting out tiles on a shared board and trying to route these gems into a scoring area that if you're playing at 3 or 4 players, you share with another player. So you both collect that gem if it ends up sliding down onto your side of the board all the way. But there are these tiles have so many different routes on them that it's very easy for an opponent to come in and completely reroute that gem to somewhere else. And there's a lot of that kind of fun back and forth tug of war between these gems. And I have a good time with it every time. I don't think it's the most, amazing or clever game, but it seems to be a good crowd pleaser. So
I did play this actually. I got a couple plays of it in a few days ago, and I think I agree. If I'd played the Japanese version with the more reasonable sized box, then
much better.
I think I'd be like, no, it's B tier for sure, because I want to own it now. I want to have that slim box, so I can pull it out and get the little Suro fix, like Suro, whatever the subtitle of that is. This is what I always wanted that game to be, just a little bit more. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to play this with my daughter when she's a few years older, because it's that approachable and just like very simple to catch on to. Just good shared incentive game.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Coming up, we have Ingenious. Honestly, probably should have just done this at the same time of Axio.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's very much like, Axio is slightly better than Ingenious, or maybe Ingenious is slightly better than Axio, but I think the two of them are so close together. And the central gameplay of dominoes and making lines of matching icons to score points, and you're trying to score all of them. I think it's compelling. I think it's really clean. It's completely abstract, and so it's very much your mileage may vary, but like I think there's a reason this is one of his most popular like fiscally designs, and you get reprints all the time.
Yeah, and speaking of which, Cosmos is releasing a new version this fall, or this quarter, basically. So it should be easy to acquire. I think the thing we haven't mentioned that really elevates this game for me is the Tigris and Euphrates style scoring, where you only score your lowest valued color, which means you're, like you said, you're trying to balance across all the scoring, but you can be very mean to your opponents, and you can kind of enclose or block out a color for them to keep scoring on that and hurt them in that way. And that's what makes it so fun. Yet it's still family weight, very approachable, very solid tile layer.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Into the blue. I have this as a C tier Knizia dice push your luck game. It's cool in that it's got area majorities going on. You're rolling dice and you're trying to roll a run of numbers to get you deeper and deeper into the ocean. And however deep you go, however many number of that level you roll, you get to throw down your seashells, which is like area majority in that, and you're competing for first or second place points. And if you tie with people on that level, then you look at the next highest level, and that's the tiebreaker for whoever has more majority there. There's a lot of clever stuff here, but the dice rolling is very restrictive in a lot of ways. Which is kind of funny and kind of not. Like, if you can't roll a 1, then you're not getting anywhere. You need to roll all numbers in the run in order to get as deep as you want to go. And it's possible for somebody to roll, the Yahtzee or whatever. You roll the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 treasure, and they get a bonus point token and another turn, and usually that person's running away with the game. So to me, it's fun and unique in a lot of ways, and I'd honestly rather play this than King of Tokyo, probably, which is probably the most comparable game to it. Just because it's faster and more streamlined, I suppose, and it can't be drawn out like King of Tokyo can, but not as thrilling or as free or as investing as Gang of Dice or some of those other games.
Fair enough.
Yep.
All right, up next we have It's Mine / SWAT. For me,
SWAT.
this is a very solid C tier.
I agree.
It's simple set collection with a lovely, a lovely little dexterity element where one person is putting out cards one at a time, and anyone else can go, "It's mine," or SWAT. If you want to be boring,
SWAT the table.
Take all those cards, and then they become the new dealer, and you go until everyone has a certain number of cards, like piles that they take, or the deck runs out. And it's fun, it's dumb, it's quick. I think my mom's 6th graders really enjoy it.
I'm impressed with what Reiner does. I mean, real-time games like that where it's just like fastest reflexes tend to not be that interesting, but this one it plays on that rule by tempting you to wait till the pile gets better and better and better, and then you're like, shoot, do I claim it now before somebody else does? I had a good time with it. I don't think it's for everybody, but I would happily play it again.
Okay. Have you played Ivanhoe, or is that just me?
That's just you.
Okay, so Ivanhoe and Pantunistau Demoludi, which is purported to be the Polish version of Ivanhoe, but kind of isn't. I think Ivanhoe is a D tier card game. It's a bit too punishing for me. It's a bit too random. You're trying to bid in single colors, but there's all these kind of one-off action cards flying around doing random things. There are some people who really, really like this game, and it mystifies me a little bit. I just don't quite understand it. I think it's interesting, but it just doesn't quite have the gas, and it's also very weird early 2000s CGI artwork instead of actual artwork. Very strange. Pantunistau Demoludi is worse Ivanhoe.
No. I'm not expecting this.
Because Ivanhoe and Demoludi are actually kind of branching evolutions of a card game called Attack. Ivanhoe takes it an interesting way where you have 5 different categories that you're trying to win auctions in, basically. But each of the categories is a different weapon, and they have different distributions. And there's some weapons, action cards that are oh, everyone drops their weapon, and now they're fighting hand to hand, and only green cards can be played, and all the cards are only worth 1 value, which is that's interesting. Pantunistau Demoludi takes Attack, and it takes, there's 5 categories. They all have the exact same distribution of cards. The action cards aren't as interesting. The card economy is freaking impossible, and it just feels like such a slog and just not enjoyable. I don't ever want to play it again. Ivanhoe, I could be convinced. I would very much like to play Ivanhoe with the 2 or 3 people out there who are this is gold tier. I'm show me what you see. Let me see into your eyes.
Open my eyes.
But I don't see it myself, so.
I'm going to believe you on both accounts there. Next game, we've got Karate Tomate, okay? And when you look at this box, okay, when I showed this to my...
put it gold tier just for a second. Just
for now.
Look at this.
Yeah, so I broke this game out at a public game night recently, and when you look at the art and you see on the box that it says 3 to 10 players from Amigo Games, for most people, I think we've been Pavlov dog trained into thinking run away from this game. It is not get out of here. And actually, I'm gonna throw this down. This is a B tier Knizia through and through. This is a very good card game.
Not just a B tier, a solid B tier.
Yeah. Yeah. I've played this with 4 or 5, but I've also played this with 9 players. And that 9-player group who was just you could see their souls sucked out of their bodies as I brought it out, and I'm like, you guys want to try this? and then we played it, and then they're like, let's play it again. And then we played it again, and they're like, let's play it again. It's that good. It's a simultaneous auction style game in the vein of Taj Mahal and Heckmeck Karteneck, where once you commit to one suit, you got to keep playing that. But you're doing it simultaneously, and one at a time. You reveal another card, And are there still too many people in? All right, we got to keep bidding. And then you reveal another card. And when somebody reveals a tomato, they're out of the round. They're passing out, right? And then they can draw some cards to refill their hand. So it's a game of chicken with up to 10 players. And oh my goodness. You're trying to, and then like once enough people have passed out of the round, there's a few cards in the middle that you get drafting dibs on, just like a Heckmeck. So the highest bidder gets to go first, and then the next higher gets to take one. And you're trying to get points, or you're trying to get some tomatoes, which can earn you more cards for the next round. But you're also trying to get knives, because if you don't get knives, if you have the least knives at the end of the game, you are eliminated, just like High Society, just like some of these other Knizia games. Oh my goodness, this is a shockingly great Knizia game.
Yeah, it really shouldn't be allowed to be that good with art in 1995, you know?
And it was never even, I don't even think it was ever brought to the US. Amigo, they do that for a lot of Knizia games, but they didn't do it for Karate Tomate. I don't know why. Maybe it didn't sell well enough in Germany, but it should have. And shame on those Germans for not buying it up so that more Americans could enjoy the privilege of Karate Tomate.
Can't blame them though. Look at it. It's
yeah. They could have done better to sell people on it for sure.
It is so good though. Like
it's so good.
Like 6 players, it's just like
oh man,
something clicks and it's just like it's fabulous. All right. Ooh, Kariba. Speaking of fabulous card games, Kariba. Oof. I'm very much like, is Kariba? Ooh. That might be spicy, but
I have this at D tier.
Yeah, D tier. Okay, I'll go ahead and put it at B tier then.
Okay. Well, okay. Tell me why you love this game.
I've only played it with 2. At 2, it's very much like every card I put down is potentially something that my opponent can score, and so it's a matter of managing my hand, building groups so that I can take big piles. But every time I put down a group of like cards, my opponent might swoop in and take those instead. And I just think it was super sharp. It gave me the Knizia like tingle, you know, or it's just like, oh, like this is so simple, but it's so sharp. And I think it's great. I think it's really, really, really sharp.
It is really solid. For me, it's like, it's almost a good game. It's like a solid okay game for me. I find it amusing with enough tension in the card play that I'm not opposed to playing it more. But I find like even with the advanced rules, I don't know, there's just not enough going on there for me to like really find deep satisfaction in it. Because I mean, you don't know what's going to happen when you play a card. It's like, this might be good for you, it might be good for me, but it's one that I am keeping because it's so small and the production is very charming, and I think it'll be a great game to play with my daughters. But I ranked it as D tier, so I would vote to move it to C tier.
Okay, well the 2 elephants guarding C tier.
I like that feels fitting.
Celtis. Der Stein. Play and go. I think this is a solid C tier. Maybe D tier.
This is Lost Cities the board game, or kind of it's this is okay. You've played Celtis, right?
This is a distillation of Celtis. No board game, no cards. It's just, it's basically you flip over all these tiles, and on your turn you flip over one, and you either add it to a path of that color that you've already started, following Celtis rules, where you either start and you go ascending or descending, and once you place your second one, you're locked in. But it's very, very much like simplified even further. You don't have a hand. You just like flip and you place, or you leave it in the middle for someone else to take, or like for you to take later. It's very much like I'm planning on getting like a little velvet bag to just like take it along, because it's very, very portable, and it's solid. It's decent.
Nice. All right, we'll take it. I haven't played that particular version or that game, so.
All right, Kingdoms.
Ooh. For me, Kingdoms is actually one that we were considering publishing for a time, because we were planning to start a 2-player line of games next year, and we're going to come out of the gate strong with some Knizias. So Kingdoms is one that I quite enjoyed playing, but actually my wife hated it.
Oh yeah, it's so
mean. It's like, yeah, it's like if you like math and you like just curb stomping your friends, then this is the game for you, because that's what it is. It's just like the meanest form of math that you will ever find. It's basically, you got a grid and you're drawing tiles out of a bag, and you're placing them out, and you're trying to, and in addition to placing out these tiles that either increase or decrease the value of a row or column, you're also claiming that those rows and columns as you put out castles in between. But it can be very mean, because if somebody stakes their claim on a row or column, they're like, I want to score on this one. Then somebody else can draw a really bad tile out of the bag and be like, oh, I'm going to put this next to your castle.
And 12 points now.
Oh man, yeah. So it's like, you don't want to commit your castles too soon, but if you wait too long, then the really good rows or columns might be claimed, and it's really good. I think I had it at C tier though. So yeah, and okay, you're feeling B tier.
I think low B, like,
okay, yeah,
because I like being mean and I like math, so like
I can live with that. Yeah, great. Kingdoms.
Yep, another game that my mom beat me at, so like,
nice.
You love to see it. King's Road. King's Road, I think people sleep on. I don't know why. It's simultaneous chicken. I think, it's simultaneous chicken, but it works better. It works at the player counts that I don't think Karate Tomate works at. So for me, it's a very solid B tier. It's a matter of like trying to get as much for as little as you possibly can, and trying to get into people's heads, and then laughing as two people just keep butting their heads up against each other while you're like hunkering down and getting your own little slice of the kingdom. I think it's fast. It's easy to teach. This is also a game that multiple people have been like, man, I want a copy of this, but it's out of print. I'm like, well, good thing I bought a couple copies. Here's one from my closet. Like,
it was on for sale for like $5 earlier this year, right? Online.
I have a copy in my closet. I'm waiting. I'm just like, someone's gonna buy this at some point. So
I've only played this, I think, one time. So yeah, take my opinion with a grain of salt. For me, it was a high C tier experience at the time. I think the reason people sleep on it, and the reason maybe I didn't love it more, is it's a very minimalist game, very subtle in how it plays out. And so yeah, like if you're like, you know, I want my area controls games to be bombastic, I want them to be thrilling, I want them to be surprising, that kind of thing, then yeah, you're not going to be very wowed by this. But I could see why you make the case for it being B tier, because it is very solid, and it's one that I do want to play again.
Yeah. All right. The Llama trilogy.
The llamas.
The base game, and I get the party edition, which I'm very
All right, let's put the base game in the C tier. I think Llama it's a grower for those who are in the right mindset for it. For hobbyist gamers, a lot of people look at this game and say like, there's barely anything here. But if you come in, I think for me, it helps to come in thinking like, okay, we're going to play an Uno style game that's actually interesting. Then it's one that I really appreciate, because there is a lot more subtlety and a lot more drama and a lot more fun and freedom and decision making. I mean, it doesn't feel very free when all you can play is either the number that's already out on the table or one higher, which is why we might appreciate, you know, this one a little more. But yeah, Llama, it's a very popular one of Knizia's, probably one of his best-selling card games, and for good reason. It's great. It's a great casual game, but for me, it's not one that I'm looking to play all the time. So C tier.
So I agree with the placement of Llama in C tier. I think based on Llama, I'd generally put like a low B. But because I do play with a lot of casual gamers, I have played my copy of Llama Ghetto Party Edition, because I made the upgrade myself dozens of times. And for me, this is the spiciest take of all time.
Whoa.
Llama Party Edition. S tier. S tier.
No. What is going on?
It's fast. It's done. It's subtle. It has like The party llama. It's like the game is elevated when you start playing, like the Bluey soundtrack. Every time someone throws down a llama, you're just like, woo! And then once someone throws down one, you stop the music again. Every group that I've ever introduced this to has loved it. I've enjoyed playing it every single time, even though I lose terribly. But I do have like some games where, like, I don't know. I think it's fantastic. I think it's so stupid, and it will never, ever, ever leave my collection. And I will never not be okay playing Llama Party Edition.
I can see exactly where you're coming from, and in a lot of ways I feel the same way. The issue is, I think for hobbyist gamers who are probably the main audience watching this video, I think a lot of them
take the stick out their butts.
I think for the ones who don't appreciate very casual games that they can play casually with friends and family, they're going to see this game on the S tier and be like, oh, I better try it. And then they're going to be like, what on earth were these guys thinking? I would say let's knock it down a peg to A tier and we'll leave it there, because I fully agree. This is one of the best games in terms of showing it, like, as far as just casual card games goes, to anybody and everybody. Llama has surprising subtlety to it, and I think it rewards, which most games of this weight do not. I think it rewards repeat plays, where you learn strategies, and especially if you're playing it with the same group. This is one of my 4-year-old girl. We taught her this game and she understood it completely, and she loves this game. We've started playing it with her all the time. And there's an app for this too. And the combination of those two experiences has made this rise for me. And I agree, the party version is better, because it's just more dramatic, which is fun.
Oh yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I accept it. If any quote unquote true gamers have a problem with Llama Party Edition being an A tier, go and play it 30 times and then we can talk as equals. So, all right. Finally, don't Llama Dice.
This is B tier for me. Which I don't know. I in some ways, I think a lot of people, gamers especially, will say that they like this game more than they like Llama the card game. But I try to think of it on its own, but also as a push your luck dice game. For me, if Llama doesn't hit the spot for you because it's too secretive, too private with your hand of cards, that kind of thing, Llama the dice game brings out the dumb shared drama of what Llama is, because everybody can see what cards you're trying to get rid of, and they can see when you make a really brash risky decision to roll the dice again and possibly bust as you try to get rid of your last cards. I think it's great. It surprised me how well it is. I think I tried it at 5 or 6 players one time, and that was too many. I think it was 6. 6 was too many, and then lower than that, like 4-ish, 5-ish is really good. So I think it's a great, very dumb, very simple, but surprisingly good push your luck dice game.
Okay. For me, Don't Llama Dice didn't quite do it for me. I have it ranked lower than the base Llama. But I did, one of my buddies last night was like, oh, we should play the Llama Dice game. Like he wanted to play it. I'm like, okay, I think this is maybe just like a personal preference thing. So yeah, I'm okay with it being bottom B tier.
All right.